The film begins with Kim Man-seob drives his direction in a school. He sees many individuals dissenting, and a tear explosive is terminated. He mumbles that they are so careless. He sees a pregnant lady and sends her to the medical clinic at her solicitation. He returns home and sees his girl hanging tight for him. They eat together. Kim Man-seob is a confiscated father who capacities as a cabbie in Seoul. Sometime, he hears another cab driver looking at another client who has booked him for an excursion worth 100,000 won, or around $565. The client desires to make a trip to Gwangju for the afternoon and return to Seoul before truly check-in break. Man-seob floods off to take the client. The client is Jürgen Peter Hinspeter, a West German reporter who wishes to give insights about the rising normal disturbance in Gwangju. In light of extreme limitation, new journalists are blocked from entering the country. Peter professes to be a minister to enter South Korea. Man-seob meets Peter and brings him into his taxi preceding taking off to Gwangju. The two men find that every one of the streets prompting Gwangju are hindered and vigorously monitored by fighters. Man-seob attempts to persuade Peter that they ought to get back to Seoul, yet the last option will not pay the 100,000 won except if they arrive at Gwangju. They figure out how to enter the city after they lie about Peter being a money manager. In Gwangju, they observe that every one of the shops are shut down and the roads are abandoned. Man-seob excuses the seriousness of the city's state as he accepts that the new mobs were brought about by understudies who as it were go to class to dissent to a limited extent because of the news detailing falsehood. Peter starts to record his perceptions on his camera, and the two men meet a gathering of understudies who are riding on a pickup truck. The head of the gathering, Yong-pyo, welcomes Peter on board. They likewise get to know English-talking understudy, Jae-sik. Man-seob chooses to turn around, hesitant to have his taxi harmed in the mobs. He has compassion for an elderly person searching for her child and she drives him to the nearby emergency clinic. The lady's child ends up being Yong-pyo, who is in the emergency clinic with minor wounds. Peter and the undergrads reprove Man-seob for his self-centeredness and decline to allow Peter to pay him until he satisfies the concurred trip. Man-seob consents to take Peter and Jae-sik, presently going about as interpreter, through Gwangju. Nearby dissidents invite the unfamiliar columnist and welcome the threesome with food and gifts. Peter films fierce uproars and witnesses troopers beating dissenters. Plainclothes Safeguard Security Order, DSC, officials see him recording and move to capture him. The three men dodge catch. That night, Man-seob's taxi separates and they are met by Tae-soo, one of the nearby cab drivers. Tae-soo tows the taxi to his shop for the time being fix. Man-seob becomes bothered as his young girl is home alone and he can't reach her as Gwangju's telephone lines have been cut. Tae-soo allows the men to remain at his home for the evening. During supper, they hear a blast and find that the TV channel has been besieged. They head there and Peter films the disturbance. The officials perceive Peter and pursue the three men. Jae-sik is caught, yet before he is removed, he shouts for Peter to impart the recording to the world. Man-seob is attacked by the head of the casually dressed DSC officials, who blames the driver for being a socialist. Peter salvages Man-seob and the pair run back to Tae-soo's home. At daybreak, Tae-soo gives Man-seob counterfeit Gwangju tags as the troopers are currently looking for a Seoul taxi. Alone, Man-seob drives to the close-by town of Suncheon, where he hears reports of the occasions in Gwangju. The media erroneously guarantees that the confusion was brought about by maverick gatherings and agitators. He is overpowered with responsibility and drives back to the medical clinic in Gwangju to find Peter in shock and Tae-soo crying over Jae-sik's cadaver. He helps Peter to remember his guarantee to show the world what's going on in South Korea and urges him to film. They film a road where troopers are barbarously taking shots at regular folks. Man-seob and different cabbies utilize their vehicles to blockade the troopers from further hurting the regular people. The fighters keep shooting, and the two men show up at a street obstructed by troopers. Man-seob states that he is removing an unfamiliar financial specialist from the unrest. A youthful trooper looks through the vehicle and finds the tags from Seoul. Notwithstanding, he stays quiet on the disclosure and lets them go. The troopers then, at that point, get orders not to let any outsiders out, provoking them to pursue the couple and take shots at them. The pair are saved by the neighborhood cabbies, who smash into the tactical vehicles to occupy the troopers. The cab drivers are probably killed in the pursuit, and Tae-soo at last forfeits himself to permit Man-seob and Peter to get away. The two men come to the air terminal, where they bid each other a profound goodbye. Peter asks Man-seob for his name and telephone number as he wishes to get back to South Korea to visit. Man-seob falters, however, at that point composes his name and telephone number in Peter's journal. Peter leaves the nation securely. Peter imparts the recording to his bosses and the word is gotten out from one side of the planet to the other. He looks for Kim Sa-bok, just to be informed that the last option had given a misleading name and telephone number. In Seoul, Man Seob cheerfully reunites with his little girl. After 23 years, Peter gets an honor in South Korea for his report on the Gwangju uprising. In his discourse, he offers his thanks to Kim Sa-bok and desires to see him again sometime in the future. Man Seob, still a cab driver, peruses a paper article about Peter's discourse and accomplishments, including his expressions of appreciation towards him. Man Seob then mumbles that he is more appreciative to Peter and that he misses him as well. The epilogue states that Peter tried to track down the cab driver who drove him around Gwangju, but he passed away in 2016 before they could reunite. The movie ends with footage of the Real Peter expressing his gratitude